young girls, and it was just the advice was just so horrible, and the things in those magazines, like, that they encouraged stuff like that, like, "Oh, you should, you know, watch with your boyfriend, and you should do all these things," and I'm sure they're even worse nowadays, but that was pretty bad back when I was a teenager, so I remember, thinking that that's what's normal, like, doing all these things, that are mortal sins, and so you just accept that. You come to the point where you're like, "Well, I heard this in school, but, like, whatever. This is what's really happening in the real world. Everybody's, doing these, horrible things, just really, fornication, and we're talking all this stuff."
I hope please go ahead and subscribe to our channel, share this amazing interview, which we're gonna have Kira, right? Well, we'll find out if I said that right. But for sure, you've seen her on Instagram as Mercy Divine, and she has a beautiful voice for the Lord, and she's been doing great work. And we have her today. So, how are you? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing super blessed. Thanks the Lord. Tell us, tell us a little bit about your background. I saw, I'll be honest with you because I like to be an honest guy. You really caught my eye to bring over to our platform because I do believe in the power of testimonies. And there was something that caught my eye in one of your posts that you just put about who, what was your life like a while ago, and I saw myself in there a lot too because I was a double faced Catholic too. But I do want to hear about the full story because I know the power, the love, and mercy of God is all throughout it. And there's so many people that's going to be benefiting to listen to your story. So what's up? Can you tell us how was your background and how you grew up?
Sure. So, I grew up a cradle Catholic, and was, I guess as a kid, I received all my sacraments. I was at mass every Sunday. My parents made that a priority, which was good, and that was the one thing I kind of held on to. But growing up, I got into music, and my husband and I were in bands together since grade school. So that all started, and we were very passionate about music. So that sort of took us on a path to really wanting to make it big in the industry. And because of that, we definitely weren't super serious about our faith. I think that our focus was really career driven and wanting to succeed with music, and so we didn't go much further than the, Sunday mass attendance, and I think everything was very compartmentalized in our lives. So, up until we got married, we sort of were just working on music and focusing, and then we had a reversion back to the faith, after I had a pretty big health scare, actually, which kind of woke us up and made us dig a little deeper into what the church teaches and why, and then so that kind of brought us back to our faith. So that was kind of like the mini version of our journey, but we were definitely like you said, we were living like a double life. So we would, you know, be in the choir, be in our church group, and
And
do
yeah,
all that, and then but we were just picking and choosing what we wanted to believe out of the faith. We weren't following it faithfully.
I see that. I see that. And so I got a couple of questions from you. So, how old were you when you met your now husband back? It was your boyfriend. How old were you when you met him?
So it was grade school, and I think we actually even went to preschool together, so it goes way back. But yeah, I had a crush on him in the 4th grade. So yeah, I think it's been all the way through, and then we attended, Catholic high school together as well, so all the way through.
That's crazy. I thought that my wife and I were one of the oldest going back to like high school sweethearts. Now, husband and wife living the faith because we met back when we were in 10th grade. But you're talking about 4th grade having a crush and so on and so forth. That's so beautiful. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Um, what do you know about chastity growing up and like living through high school where we face this, changing our bodies and our hormones and whatnot? What do you know what was your knowledge about chastity, and what was your journey with chastity?
And it's interesting because this is sort of the area where we had a reversion and had a big wake up call. Um, but I'd say, it was taught in school because we were in a Catholic high school and a Catholic grade school. Um, but I just remember the whole sex education thing in grade school being very embarrassing and very like it was not, I don't think it was handled very well at that age. So I think we were so young and we were just sort of forced to learn these things. And I'm like, what is going on? And then by the time we were in high school, they taught, the truths of the faith, but I think we were very, um, I don't know, very, I guess we didn't want to listen to it. We didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to believe it. And I remember this one teacher was telling us all about, how contraception is wrong and all these things and why, and it just went in one ear and just kind of out the other. So um and I think because we didn't really particularly like the teacher, we were like, oh, this guy's an old guy, what's he talking about? I don't even know, so it was, we very much heard it, but then like quickly rejected it and moved on. And I think there was only really one class that really discussed that, I remember, in school. And then when we got married, like our whole thing was like we were afraid. I was afraid of getting pregnant. So we definitely like, and then we had that fear even after we were married. I was afraid to have kids and I was afraid that that would, get in the way of our career. So we were very concerned. And that's where we kind of broke off from our faith.
Wow. Wow. You know, um, I would say there's some or the vast majority of Catholics have a very, very low knowledge or a huge lack of knowledge or even practicality how to and what is really chastity. Going back into like, middle school and even more so in high school, which gets me to think about if we're not talking about chastity in these moments of our lives in a way that the youth can understand it, embrace it, and leave it, we're totally failing, and we're creating a big hole for the youth to walk around places where they don't know what they're doing, and they end up regretting. And there's a lot of scars and regrets that happens because we are unaware of the truth. I'm a quite Catholic as well as you, and this is the first time we actually ever having a conversation one of like three words that it was not through DM. um so it's crazy because I was born in a Catholic marriage, all I knew was like, sex is safe for marriage. That's all I knew. All right, I didn't know what sex meant 100%. I did learn a little bit about it when I was in fourth grade, that they said, the like the understanding of how human beings are created, basically just like the genitals of the man, genitals of the women have an interaction and so on and so forth. That's how life is created. That's that's about it, right? um I fell into pornography when I was like 12, 13 years old because a friend showed it to me. I was like, well, I was curious. Do you ever had any circumstances where you had to battle with pornography, or that was out of your picture?
Actually, definitely entered into the picture for us. I mean, I guess we looked at things from a very secular point of view. Like, I remember reading all these magazines, like, all the Cosmopolitan, all these magazines, Teen, and all these things for young girls. And it was just, the advice was just so horrible. And the things in those magazines, like that, they encouraged stuff like that. Like, oh, you should, you know, watch with your boyfriend and you should do all these things. And I'm sure they're even worse nowadays, but that was pretty bad back when I was a teenager. So I remember thinking that that's what's normal, like doing all these things that are mortal sins, and so you just accept that. You come to the point where you're like, well, I heard this in school, but like whatever, this is what's really happening in the real world. Everybody's, doing these horrible things, just really, fornication, and we're talking all this stuff. So it was easy for us to sort of buy into that, but only to a certain degree, because we were going to be very careful. We weren't going to have sex until we were married because we were like, we can't risk getting pregnant. So like there's no way. So we were sinning, we were living in sin, but at the same time we were not kind of going that far with it, but that's why when we got married, that's when we decided like, oh, we have to use contraception. So that was like the that was the point where we said, well, we can't we did love kids. We did love kids, and we had a lot of nieces and nephews because we were the youngest, both of us were the youngest in our families. And so we wanted kids eventually. It just wasn't like a right away thing because we're like, well, we'll do that down the road. So that's I think that was like the first really big departure for us to um to decide to use contraception. So
Got it. Got it. Wow. Um, I'm very I could talk for like just the whole hour about, chastity, the consequences, pornography, all that stuff, because I'm passionate about it. And I lived chastity with my girlfriend for 8 years, and then 2 years. No, hold on. Was it 6 years of courtship and then 2 years of engagement? And then now we are about to hit 3 years next year for marriage, which has been amazing. How long then have you been, but actually living the faith and practicing, what the beauty of Catholic matrimony?
so we got married, and when we started, using contraception and all this, we the big reversion came when I had horrible basically horrible side effects from using the pill. So I had migraines that were horrible. They were auras. It seemed like I was having a stroke. And because of that, we ended up in the doctor's office a bunch and trying to figure this out. And no one wanted to say that that's what was causing it, but that's what was causing it. So if it wasn't for that scare, and then also really, I developed really bad anxiety from the pill. And I mean, yes, there's the moral implications, but there's also all these physical things that happen that I feel so bad for women because they're lied to all the time
Yeah.
that it's safe, it's perfectly fine, it's not that, let's prescribe some more medication, let's give you some anti-anxiety medication. I'm like, "Wait a minute." At one point, we realized, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, that was when, it took a while, but I decided, like, this is it, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and this is wrong, and I realized this is like a poison, it's poisoning my body, and it's causing me to have all these, horrible symptoms. So after that, we had been married about a year at that point. And then we decided that's when we started digging. Around the same time, my husband saw something. We were watching, flipping through the channels, and EWTN came on, and it was Women of Grace, actually. And they were talking about contraception and how you can unintentionally abort your pregnancy before you even know it. So that was
Yeah.
that was earth-shattering because, I hadn't thought about that part of it, and we had always been pro-life, and even within all these places where we had veered off the path, like, we were definitely pro-life and strongly pro-life. So that made me also that was another, like, wake-up call, for us with that. And simultaneously, my husband also remembered, Our Lady of Fatima and how his family had had a devotion to her, and the traveling statue came to different houses, and they would have her statue at their house, and they'd all pray the rosary. So, in remembering that, I was like, "Who's Our Lady of Fatima?" So I looked this up, and we were reading about her, and, I was blown away by the story of Our Lady of Fatima. I was like, "How did I not know this? I've been Catholic for how many years, and I didn't know about Our Lady of Fatima." So, we were lost, but right? We were lost, but we decided at that point to start praying the rosary. We didn't know what we were doing. We're just like, "Let's pray the rosary." We had to have, like, a
Wow.
booklet. That's how little we knew at the time. So we
Wow.
we just started, and shortly after that, we started looking up, about what the church really teaches and why, and the beauty of, the theology of the body, and, how amazing God's plan is for marriage. So shortly after that, we went back to confession, and we had this like laundry list, and we're like, we're like, okay, we're getting it all out and we're starting over. And so, yeah, so that was about a year into our marriage. And we've been married 14 years. So it's been a while.
Wow. You said 14 years?
Yeah. And we also
Wow.
have three
Eh,
children, so we are. It's awesome. It's been amazing. I think going on this journey together and rediscovering our faith
That's
and
amazing. That's
great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. So um so you been doing, let's say, Catholic music alone now for how what's the time frame here for you?
So we like I said, we were doing this secular band that we had been in a bunch of different ones, and we had some successes, and we had some songs and TV shows and stuff like that. Um, enough for us to live in Los Angeles for about 5 years. And right around the time of our reversion and wanting to be serious about our faith, we decided to move home to Ohio. And so we never planned on doing music for our faith or Catholic music or in church or anything like that. We had always played within the church. I was in a choir all my life. I had cantored for mass most of my life since I was a kid, and then we had joined even a group at our parish out in LA, and we played with them each Sunday. But we never thought we'd lead it. So like there was a husband and wife who led their music, the mass that we played at out in LA, and they said to us one day, they're like, "Oh my gosh," they're like, "You guys should do this someday," and we're like, "No, we're never gonna do that." So we didn't think that was in the cards, but God had other plans. So when we moved home and we had our first child, our daughter, we were asked actually and kind of pulled into playing for mass every Sunday for it was like the youth mass at our parish. Um, and it
Yeah.
was originally there was like a youth program that went with it and everything. But we continued doing that even though like during COVID the youth program shut down, like we still kept going and just playing for mass every Sunday. And that's been like 9 years now. So it's been a long time.
Whoa, 9 years. Nice, 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 nice. So when was your first single as a Catholic? Like, you as Mercy Divine single out there. When was that you released that one? And what's the name of
So
it?
yeah, the first we hadn't thought of being a group, but over the years of, playing for the mass, we wrote a lot of psalms and we wrote, a lot of Catholic music. So we had all this and we thought, we want to do something, let's just put it in one place. And that's when we came up with Mercy Divine. So I started posting about a year ago on Instagram and just wanted to share the faith. And it was really refreshing because all this time doing our secular project, it was almost like hiding your faith. It came out in the music, but you were kind of like not telling people and not being obvious about it. So we decided to record and we wanted to start with Our Lady because we said, let's be bold. If we're going to be Catholic, let's be 100%. Let's put it all out there. And Our Lady's been so amazing in our lives, bringing us back to the faith. So we wanted to start with her and we consecrated our first project to her. And it's called The Queen Stand. And so we released that December 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception this past year. So it's coming up on a year now.
Wow, I actually got to know you through your collaboration with Enoch, with Fawaz. I've been friends with Fawaz for a while, and when you guys got that one, New Creation, I was like, wow, so nice. And then I saw you collaborating with a Catholic singer that you used to play with a huge, old time known Dominican to begin with. I'm from Dominican Republic, Dominican Hispanic Catholic band, which is called Alfareros. So Katia the Cid, I think is her full name. I saw you collaborating with her, doing some Gregorian chants here and there, And I was like, whoa, 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 who's this? I've never seen this person on the Catholic atmosphere, because I love music, all of it. So I do follow Catholic music ever since 2018 when I fully reverted to my faith. So tell me, how was that you met Fawaz? Who reached out to who? How was the project and how did that go along?
So, we I don't know how I, heard about Enoch, but I started listening to his music. I just stumbled across his page, and I just really liked what he was doing. I thought it was awesome, and, I decided to I think I messaged him one day, and I just said, "Hey, if you ever need anybody to sing on anything, I would love to," because I was such a fan of what he was doing, and I loved how bold he is as an artist. He's awesome. So, I never thought
Yeah.
anything of it, and he was very, appreciative and everything, and I thought, "Well, that's that," I just threw that out there just in case, and then he actually reached out to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to do it," because, yeah, he's amazing. He wrote that song, and he when he sent it to me, it was like he had everything in there, all the melodies and everything. He's like, "If you wanna sing it," I'm like, "Sure." So, yeah, I was really glad to do that, and then with Katya, um, she reached out to me and just asked if I wanted to sing on this song for Good Friday, and she's like, "Do you wanna sing Anima Christi?" And I'm like, "Sure." So, that was that's how it went down, but she's amazing. She's so talented too. I just absolutely love her voice. It's beautiful.
You both are great singers, definitely a gift from God. Um, so then now I want to ask you, how would you describe all throughout your life, or you know what, forget about all through your life. How would you describe your relationship with God right now? With one word, what would that be?
One word. Wow. One word. That's hard. I would say just I guess blessed. I feel blessed. I mean, it's blessed to have him um love me. Knowing all the paths I've walked down that have been bad, and knowing all the sin, and just I'm unworthy, I love we just started attending the Latin mass, like, I'd say it was about maybe this past summer, and so I'm a baby, like, baby Latin mass goer, but I feel so blessed to have, gone on the paths that I've gone on, that to have experienced, um, suffering so much so that it changed my heart. Like, I think I love that quote by Fulton Sheen, that sometimes the only way the Lord can get into your heart is to break it. So, like, that whole idea, and, um, yeah,
Yeah.
I came close to dying after I had my daughter, my first child, because I had this horrible, infection that landed me in the ICU, and we didn't think I was gonna make it, but I just remember feeling for the first time, like, just this surrender. Just let God do his work. If he wants to, he'll bring you back, and if he doesn't, then it's his will. So I think I'm just really blessed to have the Lord, just to know and to feel his presence, and to know that he loves me, and that my one goal is to love him. So,
That's so nice, amazing. Thank you for sharing that, and sharing the details of how God has, shape your heart and your life around his love and mercy. And I do want to ponder though why you chose Mercy Divine. What does where does that name comes from? What are you trying to portray? How do you get there?
so I think um another thing besides Our Lady and the Rosary that helped bring us back to our faith and to really love our faith would be the Divine Mercy devotion. So I even before we had this big reversion, I found a pamphlet at the back of the church one day when I just was waiting to leave, and I saw this pamphlet with this saint on the back holding this image of Jesus, and I was just drawn to it, and then I read the pamphlet, and it talked about Jesus's mercy, and just how amazing his promises were to Saint Faustina, and so I was very drawn to that, and I noticed that her feast day was my birthday. So that immediately, like, I don't know, set some bells off in my mind of
Wow.
like, "This is important. I need to do this." So I
Yeah.
started praying that chaplet, and I think, I know that it also I have a big devotion to the Sacred Heart as well of Jesus. So I think they go hand in hand, Sacred Heart, Divine Mercy, and the fact that his greatest attribute is mercy. And I absolutely love that because I know that we're all sinners. I know that we're all in need of his mercy, and that, trusting in him and trusting in that mercy is super important. So I think that's the most amazing thing. I think it's easy to think God just wants to smite you, but he wants to save you. So that's what I love.
So you mentioned the Latin Mass. I wonder a lot because the Latin Mass has totally changed who I am. So go ahead, tell me, how do you get to Latin Mass and what has been your experience?
So I started feeling this pull for more, toward reverence for the Eucharist. Um about gosh, I'm trying to think when it all started. I'd say about a couple years ago. Um and I just felt very called to love Jesus in the Eucharist more and to start veiling. So I started veiling yeah, about like a year and a half ago, and I was like the only one in my parish. There might have been a couple other ladies here and there, but our parish that we were playing music at was not super traditional. I mean, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like a liberal parish, but I also wouldn't say it was extremely traditional either. There were not many ladies veiling. So it was definitely a move that was strange to a lot of people. And a lot of people were like, whoa. And I got a lot of questions, usually nice. But my whole reason behind that was I want to honor our Lord and kind of be humble and humble myself. So I started veiling, and then around that time, I can't even remember when we started just receiving exclusively on the tongue, but it's been a while. And then we started kneeling and receiving on the tongue. So we were like we're the odd man out at our parish. Like, so it was actually really good because it was really humbling, because it was very odd to see somebody do that. So then during all that, I started learning about the Latin Mass more. I was watching the documentary Mass of the Ages, and just absolutely was drawn to it. It was so beautiful, and it was exactly what I was looking for. So I felt kind of like a fish out of water in my parish. Um, and I and I know it's Jesus no matter what in the consecration, but I also started listening to Father Ripperger a lot, and just hearing what he had to
Oh, those are
say.
dangerous waters.
He's amazing though. Oh my goodness. I just literally like,
Yeah,
oh,
he's
I love
great.
him
I
so good.
love him. He's a teacher for me.
Oh, he's amazing. So, yeah, so between listening to him and then seeing more about the Latin Mass, and I just felt like, man, I just need to see. I need to go and see. And that was on my heart for a long time. And then finally this summer we're like, okay, we're going. So we did. And it was exactly what I thought. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And I noticed that my children, who that was a big worry for me. Will my kids behave at Mass? Because I have a 10-year-old who I knew would be fine, a 7-year-old who's very
Wow.
wiggly, a very wiggly boy who's like, is he going to be okay here, for an hour and a half? And then we have a 4-year-old girl too. So, but they love it. They absolutely love it. And my 7-year-old boy is he loves it too. And he pays attention and he listens to the homily, and I think he even does better than he does at the Novus Ordo. Like, I don't know why, but I think it's just the beauty and the incense and the servers, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, we love it.
So I want to pitch in real quick on the maybe what affects the behavior of kids has to do also with the ambience, right? So we are when we are in a Novus Ordo, nothing wrong with that. I go a lot too. That's the most available to me. There is a lot of like drum, guitars, ears, and kids, they receive that emotion as well. And but they cannot control themselves as well as much as we are because they're kids, right? It's just nature. And obviously that cannot does not let them, doesn't allow them, or doesn't help them to better say, doesn't aid them to kind of keep more calm, right? To have more peace of mind. Whereas in the Latin Mass, right, we have Gregorian chant, which is not appealing to the feelings, it's not appealing to the emotions, it's appealing to the intellect. So in the intellect, when the music is appealing to the intellect more than your passions, your emotions, all that stuff, you tend to be more calm. You tend to have a more you can speak and pray more clearly because of the matter of the music. That's how I mean you've been doing music for far so long. You know what emotions music can produce because you can tell us. I mean, I read your post, which I pretty much was very impressed by the kind of music that you were writing and singing. Right, it was music that had a lot of anger in there, right? But when you would sing it and when you play it, that same anger within the lyrics plus the melody and all that, which I'm not an expert in music, so maybe I'm not saying the right words here, drives you to have also that kind of emotion. And sometimes if you don't have enough willpower, that emotion can move you to do anger movements or actions, right? I don't think I'm so wrong here on that. Um, so right, but anyway, so yes, that's why I see. That's one of the things that my wife, when she first encountered, she was like a little bit shocked. She was like, "Wow, there's so many kids here, and they're like kind of chilled down." Whereas when we go to Nuevo Soto, where there's very few kids, and those few kids are like, you already know, going crazy. um, and I remember we sat down with an old friend of ours that they served with us in a young adult group like back 6 years ago. And we were telling them, to go attend the Latin Mass. And they have two kids. One of them is like 6 and the other one's like 3. And we were explaining them how many kids they go to the parish, the chapel that we attend to. And just roughly numbers, is above 30 kids. And all of them under 10 years old, and all the way to obviously like 3 months, three months old. And we were telling them how they behave in there, and they were like in shock. They were like, "What? And you guys don't have crying room? What?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I also explained them this whole understanding of a metaphysical reality of the music and ambience, and also how people are paying attention now, right? Because all of that plays into it. So it is what it is. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's amazing. I'm so glad that you're able to attend the Mass. Hopefully, it's not gonna go away, whatever you at. And I hope that it's a solid community. Like in 99% of the places there are everywhere I go, Texas, up Florida, up North Florida, where I live in South Florida. Everywhere I go, there's a solid, beautiful, huge community full of young families start seeking to be saints, and all we talk about after mass is like having fun and talking about the saints and so many beautiful things anyway. So I don't want to say too much. I love it too much. I love everything about it. Anyway, so tell me about your latest song. All right, tell me about it. How you came up with the whole concept, and share your thoughts about it.
Well, so the latest thing that we're doing right now, we're in the process of recording a Eucharistic album. But in the meantime, we had this song that we recorded a little while ago, and it's a cover. It was by the Verve Pipe back in the 90s, like 1997 it was released. But um, we just love this
Wow.
song. We've always loved it. It's just a beautiful song, and it was like kind of a hit for that band. It was I guess like their biggest hit. Most people would know them from that song. But it just has beautiful lyrics, and the story of the song is the singer was dating a girl, and then his friend was also dating her, and she ended up getting pregnant. They didn't know who the dad was, but she ended up getting an abortion, and I don't think she even like told them. She just did. So, I mean, I don't know all the details, but this is just from what I've read online. And so the song always, touched my heart, and I always wondered why it felt so sad. And then I read the story of it, and then that made me even more interested in the song, because I think just the beauty of it is that it just gives you this window into someone's experience with abortion. And so seeing the pain and the way that these lyrics are written, they just feel so true and so authentic and they're so powerful. So I think nowadays, like with the way people look at abortion, even the way they talk about it nowadays, it's like there's no mystery about it anymore. It's just like people on the pro-choice side, they're very vocal and they're very like, yeah, I know it's a baby and I'm gonna kill it. Like that's just it's frightening that that's where we've come to. It used to be more, like, well, like in horrible cases, things like that. So I think the culture like needs songs like this because who can argue with, I guess, a personal experience? This is one person's experience with this tragedy, really. And so that's why I wanted to record it and put it out there, especially in Ohio recently. Issue 1 was passed, and it basically allows abortion up to the moment of birth here in Ohio. So it's devastating. I'm devastated by that, and I know that there's gonna be so many lives lost because of that, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. So I wanted to put this song out. I think it's timely right now too. So and the song's called "The Freshman."
Being as a pro-life, right? I was like, I had so much hope. Like, people just gotta understand that life begins in conception, and every human life it's just purely viable. There is dignity from the moment of conception, right? And as time goes on, and I have my own shares with people that are pro-choices, it just to me at some point, it makes so much sense when Father Charles Ripperger explains that as much as you sin, your intellect gets clouded and you become stupid. Basically somebody that cannot understand reason and does not want to reason with things are real and things that are unchanging and things that are just it is what it is, right?
Right.
That has gotten me to a point where like got huge because I don't want all these souls to be lost because of these rampant, in many ways, political decisions of many. Some people I've met, they were not necessarily pro-life, but because they didn't like, I will say, the T war, right? They didn't like Trump. They ended up, 1 year, okay, I'm all about like, um, you know, Democrat, and then a year and a half later, they're all pro-choices. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How do we get
Great.
there, right? And so that's why I say it's political too, because a lot of people are. You were saying, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said, yeah, it's crazy where things are right now and the whole side of abortion too. It's if you really think about it, it's just very satanic. So the whole thing is it's frightening and where we are and
It
how
is.
how it developed, even how this whole thing got passed in Ohio. It's just it really is really horrible. So I think the power of prayer and the power of like personal testimonies of people who, share their story. So I think, yeah, that's just, oh, I don't know. I'm just praying. Just have to pray.
I remember the day that Roe versus Wade was debunked. To put it those words, I was driving towards my job, and I was like, I was so happy. I was like, yes, let's go. And obviously a week later, we'll still gotta remember the fight is not over yet. It's just the beginning. Look at that. So I'm thinking this fight is not gonna end until Jesus Christ comes back. I don't think it's gonna end, to be honest with you. So and it sucks. It sucks because so many lives are lost. It just panders the. It's one of the sins that cries to heaven. As our catechism says. Well, okay, how can we recover from that horrible topic?
I don't
Anyway,
know. It's so cool.
so Kira, so tell me, you being married for 14 years, 3 kids. I've been married for 3 years, and almost 11 years, living chastity, all this stuff with my wife now. But can you tell us, me and our audience, one or two, three tips? How many tips you want to say about how your marriage with all the joys of it and its graces?
So, I think you cut out just a little bit on that, but I think you're asking like tips on marriage and how to keep it joyful or like how I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah. From your personal, yeah, from your own personal perspective and livinghood, like the stuff you tried out that they actually worked.
So I would say, number one is, you know, being of the same faith is amazing. And I feel very blessed that my husband also had this reversion with me at the same time and that he was willing to dive in and do the work and pray the rosaries and go back to confession and all these things. So being on the same page is so important, I think, in all aspects of your marriage, but especially with your faith. So I think also, obviously, everybody says communication, but I think within communication, it's, you know, diving into your faith together more. So, like as I was feeling this pull toward, returning to tradition and reverence and going deeper in the faith, my husband was also game for that. He was like, "Okay, let's do it." Like so I think I think that's really important. I think prayer as a family is so important. We right now we're doing the consecration to Mary. We've done the St. Louis de Montfort one, and I think we also did the Father Michael Gately's like version as well. So we've done two of them, and then now we're doing the
Nice.
one. I think it's Carrie Gress's version for the family, like with your children. So it's like geared toward them so that they can understand, but it's really well done and it's beautiful. So I would say yeah, always the rosary, always prayer, um, growing in faith together, and then just having time together. Like that's so important. Making time, even as crazy as life can get, especially when you have three kids going three different directions and all this stuff that happens. Just finding that time, even if we sometimes we'll do date nights like after they're in bed, it'll be like 2 in the morning and we're sitting there having dinner at 2 in the morning. Like it's crazy, but you make time and it's good. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was telling a new they've been married for 7 months and they are 6 months pregnant, right? And I was telling them because my sister literally got pregnant the same night she got married. That's
Oh my
facts.
god.
She's guys, the baby names is Elizabeth Joy. She's like, she's almost out. She's 7.4 pounds. Da, 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 da. And so I see a lot of pregnant women around me, also very close friends who I treat like sisters to me. And I was telling this young couple, married couple, I was telling them, hey, how's the baby sleeping situation going? Because I've heard it all. I don't have a baby yet, but I've heard it all. So they're like, hey, it's been tough. It's been tough. So I let them go into like the kind of like sorrow reality where they probably are like devastated and they're like, man, it's so hard. What that whole mumble jumble. And I did that because I said the only thing I said after that, wow, I'm so glad that the Lord gives so much graces for you as married couple and as new parents. And they both of them changed their faces and they were like, yes, that's so true. And I told them facts because I wouldn't be able to do it without that. Like I don't know what it's like to be you. I don't know what it's like to be a father. Obviously I'm a man. So a father waking up but every 2 hours overnight for so long. I don't really the grace of God. So in a way, crazy sometimes. But I think it was comforting to them, and also was something that I wanted to tell them because you can see it. When people are going through a lot, their body shows. And how they walk, how they speak, I've seen them a lot in the Latin Mass for a while, and we talk here and there, and then I felt free to do that. Maybe I was not prudent, but they felt great about it. So I mentioned all that because I mean, 14 years, three kids, it's been tough. But tell me, do you have one story? And this will be our last dance here. Do you have one story where one of your kids said something that you never told them or told her, and you were like, this is purely God's love and God's intervention, Holy Spirit here, that you were just like in shock?
I think it has happened. I think one story I remember is we would always lay down with our oldest. She's our difficult sleeper still. She's 10 now, but she still wants us around when she goes to bed. She's still like, Mom, she's like, can you just be in my room while I fall asleep? So sometimes I'll pray the rosary while she falls asleep. And one time when she was about, let's see, I think she was probably like 3, maybe 2 or 3. She was really little. And one night we were praying in her room. We just said little night prayers, like a couple Hail Marys, you know. But she would do them with us every night. And she goes, hold on, I got to go to the bathroom. We're like, okay. So she gets up and she runs into the bathroom. My husband followed her with the camera, with his phone, and he was going to see what she was doing. And was real quiet outside the door. And she was in there and she just wanted to do a private prayer. So he videotaped it and she was so sweet. She was like praying her little Hail Mary in the bathroom and it was so cute. So that's one thing that stands out in my mind.
No
But
way! Wow.
they're really sweet. They have one more. I have one more too. Like my son one time, my daughter actually hit him on the ear, like not she wasn't mad or anything. She was just they were fooling around and she somehow hit his ear and clapped it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so that, like, it caused his ear to start ringing really bad, and so he was very upset because he's like, I can't hear out of my ear,"
Mhm.
and, so he was crying, he was all upset, then my daughter was crying because she felt so bad, she's like, "I didn't even hit him hard." We're like, "Okay, okay." So we're calming them down, and our son's like, "Dad, come upstairs with me right now." So they went upstairs and they disappeared for a while, and I was wondering what was going on, and immediately all he wanted to do was pray the rosary, and he prayed that whole rosary. He prayed so hard. He thought, I just love the fact that the first, like, gut reaction of my son is trouble, go to Mary, pray the rosary. So I said, if you doubt yourself as a parent all the time. So when something like that happens, you're like, okay, I'm getting something. Something's going through. Some message is coming through to these children. So at least he knows that. At least he knows to run to Mama Mary. And
Yeah.
shortly after that, his ear was fine and everything was great. But
Wow.
I love that he did that. So
Oh my goodness, I got tears out of happiness and joy. Wow, what a way to end this great interview with you. I'm so grateful to have you on and for you to accept this invitation. My wife was looking at me like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And it's wait for you, baby, to listen to this amazing story of her son. Wow, I'm just in shock. What a beauty! Oh my goodness, praise the Lord.
aw,
Oh
thank
wow.
you.
Okay. Yeah, it just brings me so much joy. It's, the Lord is so beautiful, and sometimes kids can be tough, but you can see the sweetness of the Lord sometimes through their silliness and just being innocent. Wow, that's beautiful. Oh, okay. Be a bad guy here and be like Kira, Kyra. How do you say your name?
So my name is Kira. Yeah, Kira. And it's funny because our last name is Andrea. So, but it looks
Kira.
like
Yeah, because you did. It looks like a middle name.
Yeah, so my last name our last name, Andrea, looks like it's a like, some people get confused. They said, Is your name Andrea or is it or Andrea?" And I'm like, "No, that's my last name." So, yeah, but my name's Kira, so
Oh, wow. Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's crazy. I asked you that at the end because at the beginning you didn't correct me. So I was like, just in case. Anyway, wow. Kira, thank you so much for coming on. I'll be praying for your ministry along with your husband, your full family. The Lord is doing amazing things with you guys and has given you so many gifts and mercy that I'm so happy to hear all this from you guys. And I hope that all of you guys who are watching this are able to be lifted up by this beauty of God's love and mercy in so many people's life. And if right now you don't feel that, right now you don't feel like you're there, that things are looking tough and ugly, trust me, guys, purifying your heart. Just trust in the Lord, who will come on your way for the ages aid that you need, because at the end of the day, he wants your salvation. And when he purifies your soul, it's not always most of the time it's not cute. It's difficult. But cling on to him, because he's right there loving you and giving you hugs that you need. Maybe you don't feel it. Just stay up and get under the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. Stay on the grace of God. And you already know this is everything for Catholic Ministry. And we'll see you at the next.